Hey guys, this is Nick with Cymatics, and in this video I'm going to be showing you guys the mixer section of Pluto, arguably the most kind of powerful piece of Pluto in my opinion, because what it lets you do is it lets you control the tone and character of the delay and the reverb individually. It also lets you filter the sound, pre or post the effects, and most importantly it has a master dry wet mix and a magnitude component. So the reason why I love the master dry wet mix so much is that it lets you use the effects in Pluto and turn them up to 100. So for instance, you can turn up the delay to 100% dry wet, or turn up the reverb to 100% dry wet. And what that'll do is, instead of using the Pluto on a return track, which you can like create a new return, throw it on there, and use it that way, you can also, instead of that, we include the mix in the actual plugin, the mix knob in the actual plugin, so you don't actually have to create a new return track. So let me just explain to you what I mean. On one hand, let's say we have a delay sound. I can turn up my dry wet to 50, or I can turn this up to 50%, 100%, right? And turn down the mix. What that's going to let you do is funnel kind of a modulated signal into the delay, which will then give you like a chorus delay or like a flange delay or so on and so forth. So let's we have the master mix at 100%. Let's take we want to make this sound like a real kind of distorted tape delay sound. So let's turn down the output. We have delay set to 100%. We're going to increase right? That's very aggressively distorted. We're going to turn down the offset to something like 13 milliseconds. Okay, but real tape, on a real tape delay, you're going to have modulation going up and down. So what we're going to do is we're just going to enable our modulation, go to WoW Flutter, turn this up. And we're going to turn down stereo because we don't want any stereo offset coming from the chorus itself. And now we're going to get a stereo, pitch modulated, like a WoW fluttered delay that's distorted through tape. And what we're going to do is, it sounds a little bit too aggressive in the lower mid range, which is typically what you're going to get from a tape anyway. But I want it to be damped, but when I'm damping it, I'm getting a lot of this kind of low-end collection of frequencies. And I'm only listening to the wet signal here, by the way. So I'm just going to go to my delay filter, and I'm just going to filter those lows out of the wet delay signal. And I'm going to cut out a little bit of the high end as well. So now I have a very convincing sounding tape delay, right? But you might be wondering, well, that's great. You crafted a kind of a wet delay sound, but then wouldn't you have to put this on a return track? Well, that's the point of the mix knobs. Then I can mix in the dry signal back in, which means I don't need a return track for this. And we have an output knob to kind of, since we're cranking the input so hard to create our distortion sound, we can turn down the knob, and then since we're mixing the dry signal back in, we can turn up the output of the master of everything together. So that's the overall workflow of how to create an interesting modulated delay. You can do the same thing with the reverb, as you might imagine. And the cool thing about the reverb is that you can get a lot of really interesting sounds by saying, for example, taking your delay. Let's use a standard kind of sound where we're gonna turn the mix up all the way. We're not gonna distort the delay too much. We still have the wow flutter, we still have the delay filter on. But what I want to do is have the feedback down and have it kind of be like a slapback delay with a very short period. Something like, I don't know, 42 milliseconds. And you'll hear, when I turn down the mix, you'll hear that it's going to have a slapback effect. So the delay itself is 100% wet in the wet chain. But I can turn on the reverb and set the reverb to 50% wet. What that means is that only the delayed wet signal is going to be processed through this reverb at 50% dry wet, which is essentially meaning that I can get the sound of some sound of the clean delay sound and some reverb on top. So I'm only applying a little bit of reverb to the delay. It's going to give me a bit more of a nice spacious quality, and I can do that with the shimmer or the hall. So let's try a hall sound. I'm going to turn the size all the way, pretty low. I want to kind of have a short reverbed sound, but it's going to be pre-delayed because it's being passed through 100% wet delay. So if I turn up the reverb dry wet all the way, I'm just going to have a pre-delayed reverb that's being passed through wow flutter and some tape delay. But if I turn it down, I'm going to get only the slapback with a tiny bit of space on top of it. So if I turn this up, you can analyze what I'm doing by turning up the mix all the way. So this is my delayed sound without the reverb at 50% and with the reverb at 50%. And then I can mix that in and I have a much more interesting lush slapback delay sound. And if I feel that I'm getting a little bit too much density in the low end, well, I have my filter here, which is pre and post filter. I can set the filter to post, which means that it's going to filter everything, including the dry and wet, or it's going to filter everything before the effects. So that's going to filter my effects, my wet chain. When you set it to pre, what you're going to do is say you want to filter a sound and then pass the filtered sound into your effects. If you want to filter the sound, then pass that into effects, you're gonna set pre, so you can have like a darker kind of guitar sound that you want to put through, say, a shimmer to brighten it up again. You can do that. But here, I only want to filter after all these effects to get rid of some of that crap in the low end, and maybe cut away a little bit of the high end as well. And that's how you're going to craft a more interesting delay or a reverb sound. That's typically how you do it. These are kind of standard tricks that were developed by guys like Bob Clearmountain a long time ago, but it's doable now in this plugin. And back in those days, you would need to set up a bunch of different pieces of gear to plow your delay through, and then mix it in very carefully and make sure that everything is spread correctly. But this is all doable just with this mix section here. Very happy that we kind of have this in here because you don't have to set up an entire network of returns. Yeah, just a much more vibrant sound than just a regular delay or a regular reverb. So I hope you guys make extensive use of this, and if you want to also reduce the intensity of everything, just reduce the magnitude. But yeah, I hope you guys make use of the mix parameter here because it's much more than just a standard dry wet. It's essentially replacing the need for a return track and letting you create chorused reverbs, flange delays, phased delays that go into a shimmer reverb, and all that is being, wow and fluttered and so on. So you have an infinite different number of combinations here. So please make use of this and try it out. And yeah, hope you enjoyed. Thanks a lot for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.